My mother favored my brother's art over mine, so I submitted his masterpiece to a contest that exposed him. Growing up, every surface in our house displayed Quentin's artwork. His finger paintings from kindergarten were framed and hung in the hallway. His middle school pottery sat on the mantelpiece like museum pieces. When he started high school, Mom converted the garage into his personal studio. Meanwhile, my paintings were relegated to my bedroom walls. "Art is Quentin's thing," Mom would say whenever I asked about hanging my work downstairs. "You're good at math, stick to your strengths." The favoritism became unbearable during my senior year. I'd been working on a series of watercolor landscapes for months, pouring my heart into every brushstroke. When I showed them to Mom, she barely glanced up from her phone. "Very nice, dear," she said dismissively. That same afternoon, Quentin showed her a charcoal sketch he'd whipped up in 20 minutes. Mom gasped like she'd discovered the next Picasso. "This is extraordinary," she gushed. "You have such a gift." She immediately called our aunt to rave about Quentin's incredible talent. I stood there holding my watercolors, invisible. The breaking point came when our local arts council announced their annual youth competition. The winner would receive a $5,000 scholarship and have their work displayed in the mayor's office. Mom practically vibrated with excitement. "Quentin, you have to enter," she insisted. "This could launch your career." When I mentioned entering too, she frowned. "Don't you think that might create unnecessary sibling rivalry?" she asked. "Besides, Quentin's been preparing for something like this his whole life." I'd been painting just as long, but apparently that didn't matter. Quentin spent weeks on his submission, an oil painting of a sunset over our town's lake. Mom hovered over him constantly, bringing him snacks and praising every brushstroke. She even drove to 3 different art stores to find the perfect frame. The night before the deadline, I snuck into his studio. The painting sat on his easel, still wet in places. It was undeniably beautiful, but something felt off. The technique seemed too advanced, too polished for Quentin's usual style. That's when I noticed his laptop was open to a YouTube tutorial, How to Paint Realistic Sunsets, Step-by-Step Guide. The video showed an artist creating the exact same composition Quentin had painted. He'd copied it stroke for stroke. I took screenshots of everything, the tutorial, his browser history showing dozens of similar videos, even photos of his painting process that revealed him following the tutorial frame by frame. The next morning, I submitted 2 entries to the contest. My original watercolor series under my name, and Quentin's plagiarized sunset under his. 3 weeks later, the results were announced at a public ceremony. Quentin's name was called as a finalist. Mom leaped from her seat, tears of pride streaming down her face, but when the judge began explaining why his piece was disqualified, her expression changed. "While technically proficient, this work is a direct copy of an online tutorial," the judge announced. "We have documentation proving plagiarism." The room fell silent. Mom turned to stare at Quentin, who had gone pale. My name was called as the winner. Mom sat frozen as I walked to the stage. The judge praised my authentic voice and genuine artistic vision. As photographers snapped pictures, I caught Mom's eye. For the first time in years, she was really seeing me. That night, she knocked on my bedroom door. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "I was so focused on what I thought Quentin could become that I missed what you already were." Quentin eventually found his own path in graphic design. He's actually quite talented when he's not trying to live up to Mom's impossible expectations. And my watercolors? They hang in the living room now, right where they belong.